Alright, Trekkies and Trekkers, it's time to take a look at the second episode of the day, Rules of Engagement. Worf is in the USS Defiant. He wanders the ship's corridors, which are filled with dead Starfleet officers, and sees a squad of Klingon warriors raising their ballots in triumph. Worf then finds himself in front of the door leading to the bridge, and he forces it open. Worf looks around and notices that the bridge is littered with many dead Klingon children. Worf wakes up with a scream to find that his vision was only a dream, as he is in the brig awaiting a hearing. Odo tells him to get some sleep as his trial starts in just 4 hours, that he has a big day ahead of him. Aboard Deep Space Nine, with the choice ring of a bell, Admiral Talara calls the hearing to order. Ch'Pok, the prosecutor representative of the Klingon Empire, charges the Worf with destroying a civilian transport ship near the Pentath system and killing all 441 Klingons aboard. He requests that Worf be extradited to the Empire. Captain Sisko, Worf's defense advocate, explains that the Defiant was under attack by 2 Klingon warships when the transport suddenly decloaked in the midst of the battle, and that its destruction was an unavoidable and tragic accident. Sisko meets with Odo on the promenade in an attempt to find more exonerating evidence. Sisko's hunch is that the transport kept it decloaked to attack the Defiant, so Odo's task is to find out everything he can about the crew of the transport. Odo leaves, and Ch'Pok approaches Sisko. Ch'Pok tells him that if Worf is convicted of this massacre, the Klingon Empire will have a pretext to escalate its offensives against the Federation. The hearing reconvenes. Ch'Pok accepts Worf's account of the situation, knowing that to Klingons, what matters most is Worf's motivation, whether duty or bloodlust informed his decision. Talara allows the hearing to move towards understanding Worf's motives, and Ch'Pok calls his first witness, Lieutenant Commander Jadzia Dax, to the stand. Dax serves as a cultural expert on Klingons, largely due to the experiences of Dax's previous host, Curzon Dax, and Ch'Pok tries to get her to define Klingons as a predatory, violent people. She defends Worf, knowing that he's excellent at restraining his passions for battle in the name of duty. Ch'Pok then enters into evidence a holosuite program, the Battle of Tong Vei. Sisko objects as the file was taken from Worf's database without search order or permission, and Talara is willing to render it inadmissible as evidence due to the violation of privacy. Ch'Pok pleads to Worf's sense of honor and requests permission to enter it as evidence. Sisko urges Worf not to. Worf feels he has nothing to hide and allows it. Dax summarizes the battle, in which Emperor Sompek conquered the city of Tong Vei with 10,000 warriors, then ordered the city burned and its people, men, women, and children, killed. Ch'Pok knows that Worf plays the role of Sompek in the holographic reenactment of it, and that he ended by giving the historical order to begin the massacre. He then asks when was the last time Worf ran the program, and she's forced to admit that it was the day before he left on the convoy mission. Ch'Pok examines Sisko, asking why he chose Worf for the mission. The Cardassian colony of Pentath III was experiencing an outbreak of Rudelian plague and requested Starfleet assistance. Since the system bordered the Klingon territory and the Cardassians didn't have warships to protect the relief convoys from raids. Starfleet agreed due to the humanitarian aspect of the request, with the Defiant being one of the ships assigned to the fleet. Sisko explains that he wanted Worf to have more command experience, and, as a Klingon, he would be able to suit for an escort mission that it might involve an altercation with Klingons. He clarifies it was clear to Worf that he was being sent on a humanitarian mission and not sent looking for combat. Talara gives Sisko the chance to add anything else to the record, since he's also acting as defense counsel, but Sisko declines. Next, Quark testifies about how Worf came to his bar in a good mood, which he knows was unusual for Worf, and the two talked. The convoy mission came up. Quark mentions that the Klingons will likely attack. Worf said, "I hope they do." Worf is embarrassed, as the one statement brings all of his motives into question. Odo presses Sisko that the transport captive was not at all the kind of person who attacked the Defiant, and that the civilian ship's course was very close to the border, so it would take a very small navigational error to cause it to be caught up in the battle. What still is understood is why the transport decloaked in front of the Defiant. Sisko tells Odo to look in the background of each passenger on the transport ship, on the extreme off chance that someone aboard may have taken control and intended to attack the Defiant. Back at the hearing, Sisko calls Chief O'Brien. O'Brien explains the battle, in which a Klingon bird of prey and an older battlecruiser would alternate attacking the Defiant and the convoy. The Klingon ships would fire, then cloak, the decloak and fire again. The Defiant was pursuing the bird of prey when it cloaked. They projected its course and followed it when Bryan picked up attack answers directly ahead, signaling that the ship was decloaking. Without hesitation, Worf ordered quantum torpedoes to be fired at it, only for them to realize to their horror that the target was simply a civilian transport. O'Brien reaffirms that he stands by Worf's decision and that, knowing Worf for the past 9 years, he's an honorable man who would never intentionally fire at an unarmed ship. Chapok cross-examines O'Brien. He points out that O'Brien's 22 years of Starfleet service, he's been in 235 separate combat encounters and has been decorated by Starfleet 15 times, and asked that O'Brien be declared an expert on starship combat. Chapok then asks O'Brien if he had been in command instead of Worf. In the middle of a battle with an unknown ship decloaking, would have given the order to fire. O'Brien objects that the question is unfair and he wasn't in command at the time, but Chapok persists and asks if he would fire at an unknown target. O'Brien admits he would not have fired, but stresses that it reflects his opinion made now, weeks after the incident, not heat of the moment, and that things look a lot different when sitting in the captain's chair. In the Rebel Mad, Sisko's drinking coffee when Chapok takes a seat next to him. They reveal that Worf is scheduled to testify next. Chapok offers to defend Worf if Sisko concedes now and allows him to be extradited. Sisko counters that Chapok is still only after grounds to invade the Penthouse system. Sisko replies that Chapok has revealed one thing: he is worried. Chapok responds to Sisko that he is the one who should be worried. Odo informs Sisko that none of the passengers had any connection to Worf or Starfleet, any perceivable motive whatsoever, but that he will keep looking. In the hearing, Worf is testifying, explaining the mission and the battle. The attack happened suddenly and without warning, and admits he was excited by the opportunity to do battle. Both said that is typical of many Klingons, and it doesn't allow his desire to fight stand in the way of his duties and responsibilities. And so he respects O'Brien and his opinion that he would not have fired, but points out that he was not in a position to make such a command decision, and he's looking back at the decision after the fact. Worf tells Sisko that although he knew the convoy was passing through civilian shipping lanes, he felt the chances of running into a civilian ship were negligible, and decided not to hesitate to fire if a ship started decloaking. Sisko then asks if Worf would make the same decision if given the chance, and Worf responds that he would, as he had to do to protect the ship, the crew, and the convoy. Chapok cross-examines Worf. He begins to establish that Worf is angry at the Empire due to being exiled by Gowron. Worf is hated by his people since he sided against them during the invasion of Cardassia, but Chapok accepts that they hate him on a more basic level because he's more human than Klingon. Chapok establishes that Klingons are now his enemies. Worf says he's not happy with killing civilians because there is no honor in it. Chapok counters that true Klingon relishes killing all of his enemies, armed or not, and will be happy for the dead children now in Sto-vo-kor, not grieved. Chapok says Worf lives with humans out of fear of living with Klingons, so Worf replies with a martial challenge. T'Lara threatens all both parties in contempt of court if they continue. Chapok continues, arguing the Worf was eager for the Klingons to attack because he wanted to prove himself to other Klingons, and that he pities Worf because one day his son Alexander grew up to find out that his father was a coward, killed innocent people just to prove his own courage. At this point, Worf gets up and attacks Chapok with a series of blows. Sisko gets up to restrain him, and Chapok closes his examination with the proof that Worf will attack an unarmed man if he is angry or has something to prove. Captain's Log, Stardate 49665.3. The hearing is in recess, and Admiral T'Lara has returned to her quarters to begin deliberations. I wish I could be more optimistic about her decision. The hearing is placed in recess as T'Lara considers her decision, and Sisko stands in his office looking out at the stars from the viewport, not very hopeful about Worf's chances. As he considers this, Odo enters saying he has some good news and hands Sisko a pad. The hearing reconvenes as Sisko enters this new evidence and asks Chapok to testify as an expert in the Klingon Empire. Sisko asks Chapok what the current relationship is between the Federation and the Klingon Empire, and Chapok replies there isn't one, and the two powers can neither be called friends nor enemies at this point. Sisko replies that, given the lack of any formal relationship, it's hard for either power to trust the other and leaves open the possibility for deception from either side. Sisko then hands Chapok the pad and asks him to identify the list of names. He answers that they are the victims of Worf's alleged attack. Sisko then explains that this actually listed the victims of an accidental transport ship crash that occurred in the mountains of Glodora Prime 3 months before the convoy incident. Sisko asked Ch'pak whether it would be possible that the transport was empty and was given off false sensor images to make it appear the Worf had committed a massacre, as the fallen officer accidentally killing hundreds of civilians will force Starfleet to stop protecting Cardassian convoys. Ch'pak admits that it is. The hearing is over. Worf is in his course on the Defiant, lost in thought, when Sisko enters. Worf admits that he should not have accepted the mission, understanding now that he did have something to prove when he took command, and, just like when Ch'pak was goading him during the trial, he was hoping for an excuse to fight and wanted vengeance. Worf also understands that he should not have fired on the cloaking ship regardless of the circumstances. Sisko agrees, and Sterling reminds Worf that he knew there were civilian ships in the area, but still fired on a target that he hadn't identified. Sisko lectures him on taking a command with such a predicament and reaffirms that a Starfleet officer should never even take the chance of endangering civilians, even if it means the lives of the Starfleet officers or the vessel will be lost. Nonetheless, Sisko says, this time there are no dead civilians on his conscience, and that's about everything that has happened. Worf will make a great captain someday. Sisko invites Worf to a party at Quark's. Worf is reluctant, but Sisko reminds him that a command officer must sometimes smile, even when it's the last thing they want to do, in order to keep the troops happy. Worf admits that life has become a lot more complicated since he started wearing the red uniform, but Sisko tells him it's nothing compared to when he gets 4 pips on his collar. You always should have gone into botany, Sisko responds. The two then leave the Defiant for Quark's. Aww. So anyway, let's take a look at some continuity surrounding this episode. In the trial where he objects during Jadzia's testimony, Sisko only has 3 rank insignia pips on his dress uniform instead of the proper 4 pips to signify his rank as captain. Ch'pak is under Worf's skin by using the false discommendation of his father, which both Chancellors Kempek and Gowron have refused to lift, despite exculpatory evidence due to the political power of the Duras family. O'Brien mentions having known Worf for 9 years to this point. They served together on the USS Enterprise for the first 5 of those years, from her launch until O'Brien was transferred to Deep Space Nine. O'Brien's extensive combat experience refers in part to his time as a technical officer on the USS Rutledge under Captain Benjamin Maxwell during the Federation Cardassian War. And now finally onto some trivia. Ron Canada, who played Ch'pak, had previously played Martin Benbeck in the Masterpiece Society and later played Fezzik in Juggernaut. Kara Glofton does not appear in this episode. This episode represents the second time that Deep Space Nine crew members were all accused of a crime by foreign government as a means of discrediting Starfleet or weakening their position, the other being O'Brien and Tribunal. Similar situations also occur in A Matter of Perspective and Ex Post Facto. The hearing takes place on Stardate 49665.3, while it is occurred on Stardate 49648. So overall, I think this is a very intriguing episode, and yeah, it's a good thing that Worf was found not guilty and the charges were dismissed, because, yeah, I don't want to know what would have happened if he was found guilty, so yeah. So overall, I give Rules of Engagement 4 warp cores out of 5. When I tune in as we took the final episode of the day, Hard Time. Yeah. So, until then, live long and prosper, everybody.